What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to today's video where I've got a menagerie of projects going on all at once right now, but we're going to talk about a Mustang of all things. Everybody that's been to the channel for a long time knows I'm a big F-body guy. I've got a couple of them right now that I'm working on. I've got the Trans Am WS6 and the 99 Z28 that spent about 8 years over in Hawaii. Kind of interesting car, been cleaning it up. A little sneak peek on it. It's looking better than maybe when you saw it last, if you can tell. Maybe you can't. But there'll be a video on that one shortly. I've done quite a bit to it since you last saw it in the videos. But what today's video is about is a Mustang that, I kid you not, I paid $200 for it. The thing was listed for a few $1,000s. It was listed for a long time, and right now it's the middle of winter up here in northern Wisconsin, and it's just a bad time to sell cars. So I sent the guy a message and I was like, hey, what's the deal with it? And we talked for a little bit on the phone about it. He didn't really know much about it. And ultimately he's like, you know, honestly, I'll take less than $1,000 for it. And I was like, well, I better go look. I mean, he was asking like $2,500 if I recall. So anyways, the car ended up running. I didn't end up filming on site like I usually don't because it is on someone's property. And it's kind of weird sticking cameras in people's faces when you're trying to do sort of a business deal or whatever. But anyways, we get to talking for a while. I get all the way up there. The thing is just hemorrhaging fuel when I go to look at it, which he didn't talk about. He's got a battery all wedged in there that's not the right group size, and it's barely in there. The thing's running, you know, the thing is running pretty good. We took it down the road real quick while it was dumping fuel, like you'll see, just to see that it goes through the gears and stops and turns and all that. We thought, what's the worst that happens? You know, you catch on fire and we die in a fiery death in a car I don't want to die in. Anyways, things worked out pretty good. We sealed the deal. The dude clearly did not care about the car, and his mom was gesturing the paperwork over when we got there because it was sitting in her yard, and she wanted out of there in the worst way. I think we could have took it for free, to be honest. Like, we were talking scrap value on it, and that's how we got to $200. So sometimes you win. We thought we won really big, but ultimately we found out that the car had a hurt motor, and we found that out the hard way after getting it up to temp and actually driving it a little bit, because we never really got to drive it that long prior to finding out that it really makes some noise. And the gauge cluster that was acting up and the oil pressure flickering like this, it was actually losing oil pressure. So to keep a long story short, you know, the first thing you should do when you check out cars is just check out all the fluids. It seems so obvious and basic, but I'm also guilty of not doing it every time I look at a car. Like the Camaro, I took a glance at the oil, that was it. This Mustang, we couldn't look at the oil because there was no dipstick in it. The one thing the kid said that seems to be haunting me this whole time is that he's like, you know, I really don't know much about it, but what I would really recommend is changing the oil. You really should change the oil. So if that wasn't a red flag, I guess it wasn't at the time. I didn't think much of it. I just thought he thought we should change the oil, but he didn't seem to know anything else about cars for whatever reason. Maybe it meant it was out of oil, and I think that's what we ended up finding out the hard way. So long story short, the car ran really good for a long time. You can run an engine without oil for quite a while, and unbeknownst to us, we found out a little bit too late, I think. So let's hop right into today's video, and I'll show you guys the new trailer I bought for picking up cars like this, which I want to do more of. And I am on the hunt for a car to have out at the track, and this was going to fit the bill, and I fully intended to keep it around for a while. The buddy that I was with actually went half in on the car with me, so we were each into it for $100, and we were going to leave it at the track, do a little bit of maintenance to it, and just play with it this summer, but it ended up not working out. So let's hop right into the video. We'll see you guys at the end. It is cold, but I've got a new car trailer, so check this thing out. I got an 18-foot with a 2-foot dovetail, making it 20 feet, 7,000-pound car trailer. It's actually brand new. Older fella bought it, ended up getting sick, he's not going to use it. It's got a 12,000-pound winch and a battery and all that, and it was cost actually less than new. These lights aren't hooked up, but all the DOT required running lights are all good to go. But we're gonna go check out a car, so let's hop in the truck before I freeze and go check it out. So this time of year, it's going on like 4 o'clock and the sun is nearly set. So what that means right now is that when you drive west this time of year, at this time of day, it is as though the devil himself is smiling at you from the other side of your hood. But anyways, Buddy and I are gonna go check out this car. I'm honestly not sure if he's gonna buy it or if I'm gonna buy it. It's kind of a toss-up right now, because what we're gonna go look at is a 97 Mustang GT. Now, it's not listed as a GT. It doesn't have any info about it being a V8 car, so, but at any rate, it's had the engine replaced. It's a 5-speed car. It's had some modifications, so we're gonna go take a look at it. The one thing that really got me hooked is when we were talking on the phone, we talked price just a little bit, and he said, I for sure will take under $1,000 for it. So we're gonna go see what $1,000 buys in the Mustang world. After doing some shopping online, it does not get you much. So this could be a really good deal. I'll probably buy it, clean it up a little bit, do some work to it, and then sell it in a couple months when it's nice out, and I'm hoping to sell it for around $2,500. All right, check it out, guys. Here's the Mustang that we picked up last night, and I am not kidding. We picked this up for $200. Now, the family that had it evidently was pretty much just done with it. It was sitting in their yard for the last year or so. Earlier this summer, they listed it for $4,000, and a couple days ago, they dropped the price to $2,500. So I sent the ad to my buddy, and I was like, hey, man, you know, this could end up being a pretty good deal. They just dumped the... just about died on the winch. They just dumped the price on it down to $2,500. We should at least go look and see what it is, because it's pretty cheap for a 2-valve Mustang. Now, although they're not super collectible or anything like that, it's a good deal. It's a 4.6 liter V8. Evidently, they replaced the motor about 20,000 miles ago, and it's pretty much parked since. They had to jerry-rig a little boat battery in here, but the thing ran mint. Now, the biggest issue so far is that it hemorrhages fuel. But the car drove great. It's a 5-speed car, 4-wheel disc brakes, it's pretty much everything you want, and under the car, it smells like fuel pretty crazy, but evidently we do have a fuel leak up on the top of the tank, so I must have a line that let go or something like that. At any rate, that's something that I really need to fix before we put any miles on it, and I'm not going to be bringing it in the garage to fix this, so we'll see what kind of shape all this stuff is in, but underneath the car is actually really clean. There's some rust, but the biggest problem, like I said, is that there is a fuel leak. So, very common issue on these is the fuel filler neck right here. The gasket in it will leak. That's not the case here, although this one's very old and dry rotted. So I won't be surprised if monkeying with this stuff, that actually lets go. But we gotta find out what exactly is leaking on this thing, because there's quite a few lines and I really can't tell what's leaking. So what I'm gonna have to do is hook up the battery, turn the key on, and see where it's gushing. All right, so I got the battery hooked up, and I'm going to turn the key on and see if we get fuel coming out with just the key on, not the vehicle running. Alright, so evidently it only leaks while running. I'll have to get it up in the air a little bit and take a look. I don't want to bring this in the garage like this, so I'll have to try and get a better view of it somehow here. I'll have to jack it up probably. So, taking a peek under here, it was immediately evident where the leak was coming from. What you'll see there is the world's most rusty, porous fuel filter that's ever been on a vehicle. So, what I'm going to do is take off those couple of retaining clips and hopefully swap out that filter real quick, and I'm guessing that that's going to take care of my problem, because that thing is like basically coming apart. Time will tell if it's a fitting, but the fuel filter itself was absolutely soaked. New one locally was 13 bucks, so I'm going to replace it, and that's going to be our best first guess at what's going on. So we'll see what happens. Alright, so $13 fuel filter later. My buddy got it all replaced up in there. I was watching Supporting Morally, but he got both of the lines popped up, which were totally seized on the filter, and got the clips back in. So I think we're ready to start it, and we'll find out real quick if we're leaking or not. Alright, ready? Yep. So it's running and evidently not leaking any fuel. So 13 bucks later, this thing is worth a ton more than 200 bucks. Trailer's all cleaned up, and we're gonna go put some fuel in the car and put some air in the tires and actually see how it drives on the road. So we'll catch up with you guys in the car. And there you have it. Car's running really good. Twist one around, put some air in the tires. We filled up the fuel tank, and we don't appear to be losing fuel out of the filler neck inside of there, which is good because that's a really, I guess it's a known problem with these, and I actually wasn't aware of that. But the rear brakes are locked up a little bit, and it is evidently the parking brake. The fronts are starting to work. So we're starting to clean up in there a little bit. But yeah, all in all, not a bad ride. There you go. Running, driving 97 Mustang GT for $213. 5-speed car, you can't beat it. It's awesome. But 'tis the season, so I think we're gonna play in the snow a little bit before we go park it. So, sorry for cutting off the video right there. I didn't realize that I was kind of stopping recording while my buddy was doing donuts in the car. We were finally out playing with it, and I started hearing noises, and I couldn't tell if he was stopping doing donuts, and I was really paying attention because you could hear it starting to rattle and make noise. I just couldn't tell what it was. So by the time I cut it off, I was waving him off, and I was like, stop, stop, stop. We were real bummed out because it was clearly making noise in the parking lot. We went home, and we found out what you're gonna see here. So you probably heard when we were doing the donuts in the snow that the engine started making noise, and the dipstick is actually broken on this. And believe it or not, we didn't actually check it, but after checking it and adding a quart or so, it was bone dry in here. The oil pressure gauge would come and go and come and go, so this thing was actually probably almost empty, if not empty, and we're kind of throwing the whole kitchen sink at it, or every extra quart of oil that's in the garage. So hopefully we're gonna have good oil pressure and it's not gonna make a bunch of noise after this. But that was a close call, I bet. $200 car almost became something we had to sell. Well, yeah, you want to? So we got enough oil to call it full, and I'm hoping it's quiet and that we'll have a good gauge. Oh, it's silent. It's silent. You know, this car wants to live. It sounds perfect. Bet you your gauge is fine.
Yep. Gauge is good.
Up on the dash, the bottom right gauge is the oil pressure gauge, and that would come on and off. So when we first drove it, the engine didn't make any noise or nothing. Well, we didn't think much of it. It could have been a sending unit or whatever, but it was actually out of oil. So watch your gauges. More. Sounds good. Bone stock, factory exhaust on it as far as I can tell, so they're actually pretty quiet in factory form. So the problem is it catches in the unlatched position, but all the way down, it doesn't actually hit the striker enough to catch it. So do a little bit of homework. My buddy that's working on the car with me found pretty much the same info I did, and what we're going to have to do is take apart the latch assembly really quick. First I'll make sure that it's actually moving and it can catch. I'll lubricate it up real good, but I'll take off this shroud and we're going to put a couple of washers under this. So we'll kind of see if we can get it going without doing that, but I'm assuming we're going to have to take it apart and actually modify it. So it does seem to be a really common problem. So we'll see what it's going to exactly take to get this going, but as always, you can start out with something easy first. So what I found after lubricating it, I manipulated the hood latch release a little bit inside of the car. Everything seems to be moving fine, but I do have to drop the hood from like 4 feet to actually make it latch. It's really, really rough. So I'll show you what I mean. I'll drop it from a little ways up, like this would be normal, I would say. Oh, there you go. A little bit of lube. Alright guys, I'll show you the interior real quick on this thing. It does have some aftermarket seats in it. So these are like part store specials. Unfortunately, the guy that we bought it from threw away the factory seats, although they weren't bad. I think they were pretty dirty and he just didn't like it and he wasn't going to clean it. So everything's pretty much on par for what we've been experiencing with the car, but the car has been sitting all night. I'm gonna find out if the battery drains down or anything crazy, but I'm hoping it's gonna start, and I'll start checking some interior fuses because the radio doesn't work and the hazards don't work. We did get the turn signals working yesterday, but let's see if it starts. Oh boy. It's about 15, 18 degrees right now, something like that, and it started right up. Alright, so I thought we evaded the problem, but it's continuing to knock. Very clearly bad. Oh, there it got quiet. So, inside oil pressure came back, and now it's coming and going. Probably just missed it, but it drops down to nothing. And when it sits down at nothing for a while, we start getting our knocking. The oil level is good when it's knocking and quiet and running, and when it's there, now it's making noise again, you can hear it. So I'm gonna shut it down. We're gonna have to figure out what's going on with this thing, but there's a serious problem and I don't know what it will take to fix it. Could be an oil pump issue. I really don't know. It's too soon to tell, so we're gonna have to do a lot of homework and then revisit this. All right, so after changing the oil on the car, what we found is that the engine is probably toast in it, because if you can see, as we weigh in, see all this glitter? That is all bearing material. So I think this car might be toast. We found out that the engine oil was low after we went and played with it a little bit, which is our fault by doing it. I didn't check it. I mean, I don't know. It's just something that you should really check on this stuff, and this one time it seems as though it bit us. But who knows how long they drove it without oil prior. I mean, it's parked for a reason. They sold it for 200 bucks for a reason, so we may have figured that out. Well, if that's not a sad ending, what you don't know though at this point is that when we went to go sell it, we actually made $1,000 on it. So we ended up selling it for like 1,200 bucks with a known hurt motor. It was very clear about it. We said it needs an engine in the ad. There's no mystery to it. But in reality, the car is probably worth around that much parting out. So we did really good on the car, even after blowing up the engine. Pretty proud of that one. It ended up working out good. And the guy that actually bought it, he drove here from an hour away and drove it home at night. So he drove it all the way home in the dark down the highway with the chase car, and he's got motors for it at home. So he fully intends on swapping the engine. I was like, you know what, man, it sounds good right now, but once you get warm or go down the road, it's gonna sound bad. So there was no cloak and dagger with it. It was just sold as is, needing an engine. You know, it drove, but it made noise. So that's pretty much the deal of it. I hope you guys liked today's video. This is a shorter one. The next video is gonna be on either the track, the Camaro, or working on the off-grid little shop I've got out there right now. I'm working on Ursula the tractor a little bit. But thanks for checking out today's video. Hope you guys liked it. Sorry for the disappointment. Hopefully we'll get a cooler one next time and it'll stick around for a little bit longer video and we'll have some more fun with it. But we'll see you guys in the next one.